honored guests, dear devotees, friends, and my dear Swamijis. You can please join with me, you can repeat after me an unique prayer of the Vedic prayer. So please repeat after me if you like. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya amritam gamaya. The English meaning, Swami Varadananda ji will tell you afterwards. Friends, we are here to remember that wonderful personality, Swami Varadananda, and many of you know him and will be remembering him, but he is no more with us. As a death. The death is always a mystery, and we don't know what is there after death, but we are all curious always to know what is there after death. Somebody wrote a book on after death. It was a bestseller, because all are curious to know what is there after death, but nobody really knows. What we feel that instead of knowing what is there after death, it is better now when we are leaving, we should think what remains after death. And that is our karma. That is our actions. That is our character. That is our life. That remains after the death. So about these two of our Swamis, they will give an idea about the karma and also the monastic life particularly. Then Swami Kripamayananda ji and Swami Yogatmananda ji, they will be introduced by our MC. So I now invite our MC, Pooja Talreja, to please organize this and arrange this meeting. Thank you and welcome on behalf of the Vedanta Society. Pooja.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to celebrating the dedicated life of Swami Varadananda ji. So pranams to all the Swamijis and greetings to all the guests. I have a few housekeeping items. We have two Swamijis who've come from Toronto and Providence for this program. We also have many admirers and representatives of religious councils and leaders here also to speak about Swamiji, and many admirers and other friends who know Swamiji for the last many decades who are here to share their thoughts on Swamiji, and others who could not have come have sent their messages, which we will read out as well. We also have another announcement. Swami Brahmarupananda ji from the Vedanta Society of Greater Washington, D.C. Peacefully passed away this morning. He had been suffering from COVID and pneumonia. He was, I believe, 88. And Swami Brahmarupananda ji started his monastic life here at the Vedanta Society of Chicago. He was a disciple of Swami Bhashananda ji, and he spent most of his monastic life here in Chicago and in Ganges. And most of us here have attended his Gita classes and some of his other classes as well. And he used to fly in monthly to attend classes here and many retreats in Ganges. So we also pay our respects and offer our pranams at the feet of Brahmarupananda ji as well today. And in his memory, let's do 1 minute of silence. So can we just stand?
Om. We will start the program today with a short video collage uh, of the life of Swami Varadananda ji. As many of us will also see, Maharaj led a very elusive life, so it was very hard to get many pictures and photographs of Swamiji. But many of these photographs also have Swami Brahmarupananda ji in there. So this will be our dedication to both Varadananda ji and Brahmarupananda ji. Can we please have the video?
O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. Home, peace, peace, peace.
Thank you for that. We also want to thank all the devotees and friends who went through their albums and archives to provide us with the photographs of Swamiji. So thank you for that. Sometimes you feel you're just left with photos, but it's not that, especially with the Swamis like Varadananda ji and maybe even, Brahmarupananda ji too. Their life is the message, how they conducted their life, and our interactions with them is what stays with us. So I'd like to invite now Swami Kripa Mayananda ji, head and minister in charge of the Vedanta Society of Toronto, to share his thoughts.
Good morning to everyone. Today we are celebrating the life of Swami Varadananda, wonderful monk, as we saw in his short life in the brochure or in the video clips. A life of total dedication to the cause. How he was drawn to this great philosophy of Vedanta, where one feels oneness with the whole world, and one dedicates one's life to the service of fellow human beings in search of the divinity of soul. Swami Varadananda's life of service. I met him a few times. He went to the World's Parliament of Religions in Toronto that was held 4 years back, and he was there. And I had met him here also when I visited Chicago, when Swami Chidanandaji was there. The Swami was such a wonderful person, I have heard. How he adjusted with everyone, with 3 heads of centers, Bhashyanandaji, Chidanandaji, Ishatmanandaji, and there was no friction, no tussle. Such a wonderful behavior was his. He was to say always, okay, Swami, whatever was given to him, doesn't matter. Food, he had never hankering for any food, no desire to travel to the places, no desire for any other worldly things. What a dedicated, what much joy he would have inside, that the whole world seems to be no charm in the world. All charm comes to the inside, inner divinity. So that growth Swami Varadananda had. By the grace of God, Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swami Vivekananda, the God manifest through these 3 spiritual manifestations for modern world, and through his guru, Swami Vireshwaranandaji. Coincidentally, Swami Vireshwaranandaji is also my guru. So I feel so happy to talk about Swami Varadanandaji for a short time. I don't know much about his life because I was in Toronto and he was here. Whatever I read from his life, how being in a service in the military, in arms services, how he was drawn to philosophy and how brilliant he was in his studies, yet this it pulled him, the spiritual hankering, the spiritual quest that pulled him. And he led his life so wonderful monk, ideal monk, a saintly monk that he was. And how this all he attained in his life, the great things, it was through service. And in service, it's all giving. He was all giving every time. He gave through his sweet counsels, wonderful talks, his prayers to God, his dealings with the fellow devotees and fellow congregations and members, and all his life was just giving, nothing demanding. Whatever food was served to him, he never asked anything. He loved coffee. When coffee was given, he was happy. That much was his passion. Otherwise, nothing was there that he was bound to. And that also he could give up. His life was so much of inner peace and inner joy. In Sanskrit, in the Gita, it is called Atma Rama. Who is happy in the Atman, in the self, that is his arama, that is his rest and the joy. That Swami Varadananda had attained through service. If service is performed in the right spirit, it leads us to spiritual growth. And that's how the inner growth can be attained through service. Swami Varadananda is that example. Service is giving. Giving, it is said in the Gita, you have to give to the right person at the right time. And you should give without any thought of return and without any attachment. And this giving, this service will lead you towards your inner purity, which will then manifest the divinity of your soul. When we are totally pure, free from worldliness, then the divinity that is already in us, it just manifests. We just need to clean up our mind from the impurities. And the service is the best way to do that. Repeating God's name, prayer, meditation, reading scriptures, company of holy, or pilgrimage, all those are fine. But very effective is service, being useful to others, giving to someone else, being there, and giving can be done, as I said. It can be monetary giving, financial, it can be giving inspiration, giving solace, good words, giving good company, giving time. And this giving we all can do. It doesn't need to be a monk to be able to serve others, need to be give to others. We all have so many things to give. So we all need to follow the line of this wonderful monk, Swami Varadananda. Swami Brahmarupananda, another person that was connected with this center, Vivekananda Vedanta Society of Chicago, he just went, this we call Mahaprayana, going to the great travel. The very beautiful imagery was there when at the last video clip, there were the birds flying, and the four great inspiration of Swami Varadananda was there. He was sitting in the middle, birds flying as if our jivatma, our soul, is like a bird which is like caged in the body in this world. When the time comes, our prarabdha is gone. It just flies, becomes free. And that was very symbolic. Thank you for those who have thought of it. Today, Swami Brahmarupanandaji, in his Mahaprayana also, that bird has flown. What a wonderful life of giving that was also. If Swami Varadanandaji was the giving of service, how he served others, Swami Brahmarupanandaji was also a life of service. He served by giving the spiritual knowledge, the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, great retreats that he conducted. He went to Toronto also once and conducted such a wonderful retreat. We remember Swami Brahmarupanandaji today also. And I bow down to the hallowed memory of Swami Varadanandaji and Swami Brahmarupanandaji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj mentioned service with Varadanandaji. I remember I was a young student staying in Hyde Park, and every evening Varadanandaji would get a call from somebody in North Carolina. The person was very disturbed, and he would speak just for a few seconds, but he would call every single day, asking the same question. And Swami Varadanandaji, I would say, this person has called. He would come to it. We didn't have cell phones back then. So it was a landline, but Varadananda ji would come towards the phone with the same calm, gentle disposition. There was never once an expression of irritation or why has this person called again. It was the same calm disposition. So I feel Varadananda ji's life was a message of service. We have a few messages that people who could not be here, friends, devotees who have sent it via email, and we would like to read those out. I will read a couple and then invite a few others to read a few other messages. This is from Barbara Reed. She's the president of the Catholic Theological Union. My deepest condolences on the loss of Swami Varadananda ji. I was saddened when we received the news of his passing in December. While I only knew him briefly through the Council of Religious Leaders of Metropolitan Chicago, I was touched by his kind and gentle spirit. May that live on in all who were touched by his life. I deeply regret that I cannot join you on April 15 due to a prior commitment. I will be with you in spirit. So thank you, Barbara, for your message. The next message is from Rabbi Adir Glick. He's been closely associated with our center. He says, Dear Swami, he addressed to Ishatmananda ji. Thank you for your invitation to participate in Varadananda ji's memorial service. Unfortunately, I'll be conducting a life cycle event, Bar Mitzvah, at a synagogue that morning and unable to participate. I will be there in heart and spirit. I was so saddened to hear of Swami Varadananda's passing. I had a lovely connection with him as always. Last time I saw him, it is a loss to all of us. My sincere condolences to your community and to the Ramakrishna order. Next, I would like to invite Buddhadev to speak, to share one of the other messages. It's from an anonymous devotee who is actually a disciple of Swami Vishwananda ji, so who knew Varadananda ji from the 70s.
So here the anonymous devotee and disciple of Swami Vivekananda writes, I first met Ganesh. I would assume Ganesh Chaitanya was his pre-brahmacharya name, and that was Swami Varadananda. No, just Ganesh, okay. In 1974, he opened the door and led me to the bookstore, as I had come seeking for some books and was unaware of the ashram or organization or services there. I had found the bookstore number and address in an old phone book in the yellow pages. It was listed under bookstores, books on Eastern and spiritual philosophy. He met me, as he probably did thousands of people over his many decades. He sat quietly in the bookstore for a long time, waiting for me to leave or ask a question, as he did so for so many people. Many decades later, I met a very old monk in India who related some of the stories from his own life. And one was how, when he went at a very young age to a city in India, unknown to him seeking his guru, was stopped and asked by a man who said his name was Ganesh, who he was looking for in the city. The man pointed him in the direction of his guru, whom he spent his entire life with subsequently. On one Christmas, Swami Vivekananda decided to get a small gift to each of the brahmacharis and sadhus at the ashram. He solicited suggestions Someone suggested a new winter coat for Ganesh, and his coat was not very warm and not very adequate for Chicago winters, and Ganesh would go out for frequent walks every day. You could see he was freezing every time when he came back in after his walk because it was very cold. A new coat was procured, made for harsh Chicago winters, and given to him. He wore it for a few days, and then without word, it disappeared, and he was back to wearing his old worn-out coat, inadequate for the Chicago cold. No one asked, but I like to think Ganesh gave it to some poor person he saw on the street that he thought really needed it much more than him. Few know this. When Ganesh's grandmother died in the 1980s, she gave Ganesh a very, very large sum of money in her will. It was much more than all the annual donations the society got for many years combined together. When the letter came, he opened it immediately, without word, gave it to Swami Bhashananda. No word was ever said. On another occasion, about a year or so after Ganesh took his vow of sannyasa, some inmates at the ashram announced their departure. Swami Bhashananda was very agitated at the news. Ganesh walked in to ask something. Swami Bhashananda was still distracted and upset about the two inmates leaving Chicago. Ganesh said he needed to tell something to Swami Bhashananda. Bhashananda replied, "So, do you want to leave too?" Ganesh immediately walked forward and touching the feet of Swami Bhashananda and said, "Don't worry, Swami, I will never leave." And he never did. Thank you.
I'd like to now invite Shilpa Shankaran to share reminiscence.
This is a letter from the Archdiocese of Chicago by Cardinal Supich, the Archbishop of Chicago. The letter is written to Dear Swami Ishatmananda. With deep sorrow, I write to you to offer my sympathy and that of the Archdiocese of Chicago on the death of Swami Varadananda. He was a dedicated and respected voice on the Council of Religious Leaders of Metropolitan Chicago, representing the Vivekananda Vedanta Society of Chicago. Swami was a beloved member of the interreligious community, and his decades-long involvement in interreligious dialogue in Greater Chicago is a wonderful example of harmony, respect, and friendship. May you and your community know peace and comfort during this time of grief. Please accept my sincere condolences and know that I will be praying for you and the Vivekananda Vedanta Society community in the coming days. May Swami Varadananda rest in peace. With kind regards, I remain sincerely yours, Cardinal Supich, Archbishop of Chicago.
Thank you, Shilpa. I'd like to invite Arun Bhatia to share thoughts, a message from Imam Karim Irfan from the Islamic Society of North America.
Good morning. It is with deep regrets and heartfelt pain that I offer these words on the passing of my dear friend and an enlightened soul, Swami Varadananda. I commiserate with the Vedanta Society of Chicago and the Chicago and global interfaith community in mourning his passing. Having the privilege of associating closely with the Swami over the past 3 decades of my interfaith work, and particularly on the Council of Religious Leaders of Metropolitan Chicago, I had come to highly respect his passion for interreligious relationships and his commitment to bringing about peace and justice in all engagements. His tranquility, patience, and understanding under all circumstances were infectious and offered me a role model to look up to. During my presidency on the CRLMC and my chairmanship of the Council of Islamic Organizations of Greater Chicago, I sought him out for wise counsel on contentious and serious matters. His thoughtful and calming input always remained a beacon of guidance. CRLMC meetings and Chicago interfaith gatherings will not be the same without you, my dear saintly and tranquil Swami Varadananda. You leave a huge void in the interfaith arena and shall be sorely missed, my dear friend and associate. May your soul continue soaring on clouds of peace and tranquility.
Thank you, Arun. Can I invite Christina to share a message from Nancy Boyd? Nancy Boyd is a long-time devotee associated with Vedanta Society of Chicago and currently lives in Florida.
When I think of Swami Varadananda, I think of 3 S's: service, simplicity, and sweetness. I used to pour out my heart to him about everything from personal problems to philosophical questions. He would always listen quietly, then respond unerringly with a slight, seemingly simple answer that went directly to the truth. He was a giant of a man in a slight and unassuming body, a person who accomplished an amazing amount of work in his short life, and all without complaint. It was my great blessing to have his association. Nancy Boyd.
Thank you, Christina. We now have a music performance from the great Algonquin First Nation. While we are setting this up, I will quickly read a message from Haridas. Haridas is our resident in Ganges and couldn't be here because there is a guest staying in Ganges this weekend. So Haridas has sent a message saying, he called it Swami V. He said this is how we usually refer to the revered Swami rather than drawing out the 5-syllable Varadananda. And he said the V could then stand for anything like victory. But happiness of Varada, bestower of boons, is all right too. And he said the 3 traits, the laudable traits we observed in Swami V as an outcome of our continued association is evenness of disposition, simplicity, and good-naturedness. He said that this by no means exhausts the list of fine qualities of our Swami. I have just presented these 3 examples by way of example. Blessings to the guardians of the principles of Vedanta and prostrations too. Thank you.
I just want to say that it was always nice to see Swami at all the interfaith community events that I went to, and it would always bring a smile to my face. So the song I'm going to play is an honor song.
Thank you so much for that. It really, the music changed the atmosphere of the whole room. You could just feel it. So thank you for that. Our next speaker is Swami Yogatmananda ji. He's the minister in charge of the Vedanta Society of Providence. And Maharaj has come for not even 24 hours to spend the day with us. So thank you, Maharaj.
My thanks, gratitude for being invited on this solemn occasion as we remember the wonderful personality of revered Swami Varadananda. And then that was not the idea, but as it happened, Swami Brahmarupananda, who passed away early this morning. So I had, as I remember, first meeting with Swami Varadananda was long, long ago in 1974, when I had not joined the order. He had come to Nagpur, and then with Swami Bhashyanandaji, and I was there at that time as a student in the center there. At that time, we didn't have much conversation, but then afterwards, when he came for sannyasa in 1982, I was in training center with others, and then since we had some association with Nagpur, because Swami Bhashyanandaji was from that area, and whenever he would come to India, he would always make a point to visit Nagpur and bring some of the other monastics and devotees from that area to Nagpur. So when he came for his sannyasa vows, we had some nice moments of conversation. At that time, of course, I had absolutely no inkling that I will be meeting him in America sometimes. And of course, it took a very long time before I came here. But then from 2002 onwards, I have been meeting him. I arrived here in 2001, and from 2002, I have been meeting him for a long time, at least once a year. Because first I came to give a retreat that was in the Chicago Center, there in Hyde Park, and he was there at that time. And we had a nice conversation because, as many have remarked, that his was a personality full of joy and full of the spirit of giving, and no ego. We don't get too many friends if we are egotistic. The secret of Varadananda having so many friends is that lack of ego and a personal access to grind. So it was always a joy to be with him, and very helpful nature. Ishatmananji told me to speak about the monastic qualities of life, a monastic life. And then as I will be speaking about some of those cardinal virtues of monastic life, you can easily relate them to what you know about Swami Varadananda ji. You might have read that beautiful short lecture of Swami Vivekananda given at Belur Math, titled as Sannyasa. Its meaning and practice. Sannyasa, its practice. So, and he lays stress on the practical aspect. He began actually, it is a short lecture, and the lecture was not recorded verbatim. So it is just the substance of that talk that is given in the complete works of Swami Vivekananda. There he begins actually, there is no time now to give a long discourse on sannyasa, but I am going to tell a few points which are very important for us to put in practice. So, and then he goes on to say that a monastic life is the life that loves death. And immediately he clarifies, that doesn't mean that I tell you to go and commit suicide. Far from that. What is meant by death here is that hold your life, whatever you have, for this service, and not for any selfish interest, but for service. And that is how the new monastic order that emanates from Sri Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda is characterized. That the life not of running away from society, but to be held in service of society, service of everyone. And yet, it still will hold on to the ancient or eternal, these main principles of monastic life. Long back I was speaking to a very senior monk, and I was saying, well, look, if you think of sannyasa, life of a sannyasa, we should not be wearing these garments and these clothings. The shirt is not prescribed in the ancient text on monastics. And many other things that they are mentioned, we don't follow that. And he said, well, those things keep on changing. The unchanging aspect of that is the spirit of renunciation and spirit of service. That is the ideal, that is the eternal ideal of a monastic life, that service as well as the spirit of renunciation born out of discernment. Renunciation doesn't mean you just run away, but it is through the spirit of discernment as to what is real and permanent, as against that which is just an appearance and therefore not real. So, sannyasa's life is very practical. Let me tell you, the most practical life is the life of a monastic. Because what is more practical? You can just answer this question to yourselves. What is more practical, to go to that which is real, or to go to that is appearance? The answer is no-brainer, you say. It is, so the monastic life gives away that which is appearance. Tell me what is more practical, running after to catch the horizon, or running after something that is tangibly there? How long will it take for you to catch the horizon? It is, of course, an impossibility, because such a thing does not exist. And exactly like that, the names and forms that ordinary people keep on running after. It is utterly impractical because their ideal is impossible. There in that short lecture, Swami Vivekananda mentions that if the ideal is like that, you will never achieve it. The practical ideal, that which is real, has to be achieved. Shankaracharya mentions this in a very short this sentence, that how is this knowledge of Brahman? The Sanskrit words are so beautiful, I cannot, control myself from having this desire to tell it. Bhuta vastu vishayatvat anubhav avasanatvat brahma vijnanasya. Because it is the search after something that is. It ends up in getting the experience of it. Like if somebody is looking for Yogatmananda here in the Home of Harmony in Chicago, the result will be they will find me, they will find Yogatmananda. At this time, if they are looking for me in Providence, that search will be futile, because this is the Brahma Vijnana. So, search for that which is. So, Swami Vivekananda further says that it is to be realized. Again, another great sentence in that lecture comes, that gone are the old rishis and their opinions too. Now, each of us has to become a rishi. Rishi means the one who has experienced these truths. So, darshanat rishi, as the Sanskrit saying goes, that when you experience this truth, you become rishi, a sage. So, it is just repeating what the old people have said. No use, no use. What we have to do is to experience those truths ourselves. And then he narrates a few more things that would be practically making us these experiences actually available. The Upanishads tell, like for example, the Taittiriya Upanishad, that how this Brahman is to be realized. Tapasa Brahma Vijijñāsasva, by the practice of austerity. And what is austerity? Austerity doesn't mean torturing one's body. Not at all. Austerity means purification. And thus, as our friend Kripamayananji was telling, it is the purity that makes us see the God. As Jesus says, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And this process of purification is called tapas. Tapasa Brahma Vijijñāsasva. The Guru is telling the disciple that this is how you should be able to experience this ultimate truth. And then I'll be quoting from Bhagavad Gita about what is this tapas. It comes in the 17th chapter that the tapas will live on 3 different levels. The physical level, the speech level, and then the level of mind. So there is the kayik tapa, bodily austerity, then the vachik, the austerity of speech, and then the austerity of mind. There is a funny incident. I will tell you in a couple of minutes. Our Ishatmananji likes me to tell joke, but this is not exactly a joke. But I'll take a couple of minutes to tell it. In our monastic, our order, if any center wants, this holds in India, not here, that if a center wants to construct a building, the headquarters approval is necessary. So one Swami, he sought for an approval, and then before the approval came, he had come to the headquarters, and then he told, when asked that, well, what about that building? And he said, it is 2/3 completed. Eh? 2/3 completed? The then General Secretary, he almost shouted at him, we have not even given you the approval. The plans are still being studied by our experts, and you say it is 2/3 complete. And this Swami, well, calmly, it is done on 2 levels, 2/3 means mentally it is done, and watching, by words it has been done. Now physical, that is the third part, it will come gradually. So this tapas, austerity, is also to be done at 3 levels. The physical, do the acts of worshipping holy people, means reverence to be shown to those who embody the ideals. So that leaves an impression of purity on us. The second is the speech, and it says that your speech should be such that it won't irritate anybody. Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priya hitam chayat. That it should be not causing irritation to anybody. It should be true. And it should be hitakara, means helpful in the situation. It should be dear to that person to whom you are speaking, so that it becomes easily absorbed. All these are the qualities of the, speech. That is right speech. The austerity of speech is like that. And then there is the mental austerity, that have always equanimity, manaprasada saumyatvam, that it is always behave with people in an amicable way, without getting excited. Be very careful so that your good qualities, they come to the fore, they become enhanced. So this is how the mental, these austerities are to be practiced. These are austerities, again, as I mentioned right in the beginning, is not something to be done as if it is a matter of torturous compulsion, but it is a matter of joy. As one performs these austerities, what happens is you come closer and closer to God, who is the source of all bliss. And thus, that bliss starts getting reflected in your life. So austerity, practice of austerity in this proper spirit, makes one's life full of joy. And now it is up to us all to see how revered Swami Varadananda's life was showing all these signs, which I always felt whenever I got the opportunity to meet him. So friends, let us think of that great life and try to embody those good qualities in us as well, so that will be a good remembrance and good this message of condolences to all the devotees. Let us remember that life. Again, I conclude with the same wonderful statement. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Mam Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you, Maharaj, on explaining the values of monastic life and the joke. We'd like to now invite Mr. Niranjan Shah, if he would like to say a few words on Swami Varadananda ji.
Thank you. Pranam Swamiji. We met Swami Varadananda almost over 40 years ago, and we had been privileged to get the blessing of his company. While I'm not the most spiritual or religious person, I followed the simple things from teaching of Sri Ramakrishna and some of the Swami. And one thing we try to do is what Sri Ramakrishna used to say, try to keep a holy company and read some spiritual books. And back when I met Swami Bhashyanand first, he suggested several books, including the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And I still read that time to time, just the book for the leisure rather than spiritual, and I still enjoy it 40 years later. And same thing with Swami Vardhana. He was a simple Swami, but very spiritual. He devoted his life to Vedanta, to Sri Ramakrishna, and to all the humanity without any selfish purpose. And we kept his company while Swamis travel for the support of the temple. Swami Vardhananda was the common denominator, standing there right in front of Sri Ramakrishna. And we were privileged to get to know him, privileged to get his blessing. And we keep learning from his life. Swamiji, thank you for allowing us to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Niranjan Shah. We'd next like to invite Mr. Roington Revetna. He's the founding president of the Federation of Zoroastrian Associations of North America.
Good morning. Good morning. Swamiji, you mentioned that our Swami enjoyed coffee. I think you forgot he enjoyed ice cream as well, I've heard. Right? Anyway, thanks for Swami Shatmananda for arranging this very fitting memorial to our Swami. My association with Swami Varadananda goes back to the early 80s, when I first met Swami Varadananda and Swami Sarveshananda at a devotee's residence, where we were invited to consider a petition to the then Governor Thompson, who was planning to hold the World's Fair, centennial of the World's Fair in 1993. The petition was to hold the Parliament of Religions as an auxiliary of the World's Fair, and just as it was in 1893. But that World's Fair idea fell through, and it was then that, it was then that Swami Varadananda and Swami Sarveshananda sprung into action and started to work on celebrating the centennial of the Parliament. There were about 7 or 8 of us who worked on the Constitution. I was familiar with my charters, the Russian Association Charter, so we based a lot of it on that charter. And Swami Varadananda did all the legwork for that. In fact, after it was registered, we had our first meeting at Hyde Park, first business meeting at Hyde Park, where we elected the officers for the association, for the organization. We called it the Council for a Parliament of World Religions, which was subsequently amended to a Council for a Parliament of World's Religion, plural. So Swami Sarveshananda is said to have pulled the Parliament out through a telephone. He would sit on the telephone all day long and socialize the idea. And Swami Varadananda did all the legwork. And every evening we would kind of have a little chat and plan the next day. And so the Parliament was born. And as the Parliament grew and started to function, Swami Sarveshananda stepped back and went back to his monastic life. But Swami Varadananda continued and continued for up to very recently. I would say that our great Swami Swami Vivekananda, I'm getting old. Swami Vivekananda's vision has not been fulfilled, and I think we need to work double our efforts to fulfill his vision. I would suggest we would miss Varadananda's very kind presence, gentle presence. But in order to memorialize his presence, I would say that we need to have an annual fair. I would call it the Festival of Interfaith Fairs. Annual right here, and this is very nice place to hold such a fair. So that's my recommendation, that we hold annually a fair in his memory. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for that, for sharing your thoughts. And I believe there's also ice cream today in memory of Swami memory of Swami Varadananda ji. So, our next speaker I'd like to invite is Dr. Deepak Bakane. He is he's of course long-time devotee of the center, but he was also the primary physician for Swami Varadananda ji. So, Dr. Deepak Bakane.
Thank you for the opportunity to express my feelings in few words. When we are here gathered today to remember and reflect on the life of our own Swami, Swami Varadananda ji. Yet another chapter came to an end in God's divine play. Swami Varadananda ji has been extraordinary personality veiled in ordinary outward external demeanor, being very simple, unassuming and humble. He always kept low profile, always calm, having the aura of friendliness and gentle smile, which could light up during conversation on a simple points. To maintain equanimity and in the changing and challenging circumstances is the hallmark of holy person. This reflected in his sincere, disciplined, administrative work, which he carried out till the end of his life. In addition to regular worship pujas in the shrine, what he preached in his lectures was seen in his actions too. Undoubtedly, this was a glowing example of Karma Yoga with such dedication, without an iota of ego, expectation of name, fame, compliments, or fanfare. He was seen sitting rock solid in meditation during Ramnam. His lunch consisted of a piece of cheese sandwiched between two slices of bread, or whatever was on the table. I never noticed him worried or upset. During his last days in the hospital, while sitting at his bedside, I noticed same calm expression on his face, perhaps attempting final surrender to the feet of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. Such life of dedication becomes an inspiration for we devotees who will miss the form but will keep cherishing the memories and teachings of Karma Yogi, dear Swami Varadananda ji. I offer my prayers to the departed soul on his onward journey to the Ramakrishna Loka. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Dr. Pakane. I remember meeting Swami Varadananda ji in the hospital, and I asked Swamiji, how are you feeling? And he said, I'm enjoying the ride. So I said, and he said, I'm here in the hospital, surrounded by people who know what they're doing. So what else is to do but to enjoy the ride? So I said, Swamiji, you led your whole life like that. And he said, I tried to. So thank you, Dr. Pakane. Our next speaker is Bob Chalnik. Bob is associated with us for a very long time, and he is a regular retreatant at our Ganges Retreat Center.
It's very interesting to speak after such wonderful speakers, and now you have me. I first met Swami Varadananda ji 27 years ago at the Hyde Park Ashram. At that time, there were Friday evening classes led by Swami. The subject of the classes was the book Meditation and Spiritual Life by Swami Yatishwarananda ji. Those who are familiar with the book know it is a rigorous and very disciplined blueprint of the Vedantic path from lower to higher consciousness. This being said, Swami Varadananda ji, with his gentle voice, presented this material in a way that was very heartwarming and spiritually uplifting. I have very fond memories of the time spent with Swami Varadananda in a small group of devotees in the Hyde Park lecture room with the shrine at the front. Swami Varadananda ji was a very gentle, humble, and quiet representative of the Ramakrishna order. He exemplified to we disciples the spirit of renunciation in its best form. The time spent with Swami created a calm, protected space that was a respite from the workaday world. That calmness and humility gave us confidence in the lineage of the Ramakrishna mission and the strength and optimism that we could follow the injunction of Swami Vivekananda to be bold and face the truth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bob, for that. Our next speaker is Charles Davis. Thank you, Charles.
We first met Swami Varadananda while attending our first Sunday meeting at the Chicago Hyde Park Temple in 1975. We filled out a form, paid a small amount of money, and became members for life. Swami Bhashyananda was the Swami in charge, Swamis Kalitkananda, Nishrayasananda from South Africa, and Yogeshananda assisted him. And Brahmachari Ganesh, who became Swami Varadananda, was in charge of the bookstore. Every Sunday, Ganesh could be seen behind the bookstore counter wearing a black suit, white shirt, and tie. He was always reading, always. We came to know him there. We would ask questions about which books to buy. There was never much small talk, always short, direct answers given with a smile. We became friends. Sometime in 1976, my wife and I noticed 2 gold rings in the bookstore glass showcase. Since I was the married father of a young daughter, it was certainly time for a wedding ring. We stood looking at the rings for quite a while. Could we afford one, was the question. While we gazed down at the rings, Ganesh, who had been standing on the other side of the showcase, said emphatically, "It's a good price." Instantly, the decision was made. I'm still wearing that ring. Swami Bhashyananda would have the brahmacharis give the Sunday talks from time to time. A friend of my daughter called them brahmacharlis. One Sunday, Swami Bhashyananda introduced Ganesh as the main speaker for the day. As Ganesh stepped forward, we heard Swami Bhashyananda say, "Let's see if he's learned anything from his reading." Ganesh was obviously nervous. I thought to myself, my God, I'm glad it's not me. Many years later, I mentioned that incident to Swami Varadananda. He replied, "It was like being thrown in the deep end of a swimming pool without a life jacket." We learned an important lesson some 9 or 10 years ago, and I must say, I hesitate to say this, to say what I'm about to say, but it's the truth. So I'm going to say it. Some 9 or 10 years ago, when Swami Varadananda was shouldering the heavy burden of taking on Swami Shidananda's responsibility, a gentleman tried to cheat Swamiji while purchasing books, if you can imagine. We had never seen Swamiji so angry. My wife said he actually frightened her a little. The lesson learned that day is that you may be a holy person, but that does not mean you should allow yourself to be taken advantage of. Swamiji's fierceness that day reminded us of what a fierce personality Swami Vivekananda had. Swami Varadananda was a sweet servant of the Lord, as we know. He worked very hard. His messages were simple and direct. You are the witness. During his final talk, he reminded us to always remember, we have a mother. He was a good friend. We will miss him.
Thank you for sharing. It's just so inspiring to see so many devotees associated from the 70s and beyond and share their thoughts and just beautiful stories from Varadananda ji's life. So thank you for that. Our next speaker is Mohan Kumar. He is associated with our Chicago Center and now has moved to Minneapolis. So he's come for this service for this weekend.
Good morning, everybody. It's a very few things that I would like to share. I came in 2001. There were three American Swamis born in America. Three American Swamis were here. The first Swami, I don't remember the name. Kalikananda, I remember, and then Varadananda ji. See, Varadananda ji have been since 2001. Then 2015, I moved to Minneapolis. So this year, definitely I've been interacting with him. He didn't interact much unless we talked. So that's one part. When I come to Chicago Center, I buy the incense sticks for my home. One day I bought whenever I buy about 10 sticks, I buy it, then go there. He started writing each flavor, whatever I'm buying. The sandalwood, rose flavor, musk flavor. Everything is same price, $150. So I buy $15, pay it, and go. I'm a young boy, so I was waiting for why Swami is writing everything each line by line. So I asked him, Swami, it's the same price, $15. No, I am making sure that which flavor is in stock, which is not in stock, so that I can place the order right. Oh my God. Then I told him, Swami, next time I'm going to buy only one flavor, the same thing. Then he said, no, you continue to buy. This is how I should do it here. That's a meticulous administrator. That's the one I found out. Chicago Calling event in November 2013, that was in my view, put his administrative skill to the maximum limit for him to try. But even at that time, his smile never changed. He seriously will be working on side, I'll come, Swami. By the time he turned, his smile will be back to that smile. Take any picture, take about the shoulder, it's just face alone. Compare with any of his picture, the measure of smile, pretty much same. I don't think any will be different. Such a calm, sweet, and that's ever smiling. Apuryamanam asala pratishtam samutram. That state, always say. Whenever I see him, that gospel, when I read the bewitching smile, I used to think about that expression. I always think about this Swami Varadananda ji. That's the kind of small things I would like to share. Thanks.
Thank you, Mohan Kumar ji. That is true, actually. When you see any photograph of Varadananda ji, from the time his early days to now, you have that same smile on his face, and it does not move an inch either way, less or more. So I have a story from a volunteer who one time went to Varadananda ji asking, why, this, that, administrative questions. And then he said, are you the head of the center? And the devotee said, no. He said, am I the head of the center? And then they said, no. Then why are you worried about it? That was his principle, and it was very practical and very useful. So I'd like to now invite Barbara Abrahano, the president of the Council of Religious Leaders of Metropolitan Chicago.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the Council of Religious Leaders of Metropolitan Chicago, we'd like to offer our deepest sorrow and prayers to the Vivekananda Vedanta Society and to all those who knew Swami Vivekananda. On behalf of I'm pleased and honored to be here to share my thoughts at this memorial for Swami. Swami was a gentle, kind, and committed individual. I met Swami in the early 90s when I was director of program for the National Conference for Community and Justice, better known as NCCJ, a human relations organization. At the time, Reverend Stan Davis was the executive director, and his priority was to provide interfaith programming and to bring about a better understanding and respect for all faiths. Swami, of course, was thrilled to join us in whatever we were planning to do. We told him that we were developing a number of programs and that we'd be happy if he would participate in them and with other interfaith leaders. He was excited to do so, in particular with NCCJ's youth program. We had a conference on religion for high school students, and Swami was always delighted, not only to impart his knowledge about his faith, but also to interact with young people at the conference and answer their questions. No matter what interfaith program we asked Swami to be involved, he was always willing to participate. Swami eventually became a member of the Council of Leaders of Metropolitan Chicago. The council is comprised of the heads and representatives of denominations, faith communities, seminaries, and religious networks and organizations in the broader Chicago area. During his time with the council, Swami again was always there to share his knowledge and experience to further the mission of the council. Swami cared about the council and his fellow members. He was a friend and colleague to everyone. His understanding of his own faith and his respect for the faith of others was always present. His smile, his generosity of spirit, his compassion, his thoughtfulness only added to the special person he was. Swami particularly enjoyed participating in the council's interfaith Thanksgiving service. I believe he never missed attending and gratefully offered his prayer along with other interfaith colleagues as part of the service. Swami also loved working on the council's interfaith calendar. He offered suggestions for the Hindu page and submitted not only observances for that year, but also copies of the description of the faith, provided pictures and artwork for the page as well. Swami was passionate in having understand his faith, and he was always practical and honest with respectful dialogue. He understood collaboration among people of faith was both vital and necessary. His example made the council better and our city better as well. His presence, his commitment, and his involvement will be sorely missed not only on the council, but in the Chicago area. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Our next speaker actually is Mr. Dhananjay Joshi. He's actually a nephew of Swami Bhashyananda ji and stayed at our Hyde Park Center for many, many years and closely associated with Varadananda ji. So, thank you.
So, I'm really honored to be here to celebrate Swami Varadananda ji's memories. And I remember the day I was sitting with Swami Bhashyananda in the morning, and he says, a new boy is coming today. Open the door to him when he rings the bell. So a little later, the bell rings, I go open the door, and this person says, I'm Charles. I say, okay, welcome. So that's how long I've known Swami Varadananda ji. From Charles to Ganesh to Varadananda, all those. But I think all those are like body names. I think his true name was Servant of God. So I used to have a room in the bookstore. In one corner of the room, in one corner of the bookstore was my room. And incidentally, the other corner of the bookstore was Swami Brahmarupananda's room. So three of us had so many memories together and laughs and things that we used to look at bookstores, books, choosing books, talking, and Swami Brahmarupananda, incidentally, Swami Bhashyananda used to give us like joint projects, like building bookshelves and stuff. So I've spent I have tons and tons of memories of the place. But my very, very personal memory of Swami Varadananda is this. At one time I had decided I wanted to do a Guru Charitra Parayan for second done for over a period of 10 days. And I was going to isolate myself in a room in the bookstore, one of the corner rooms, and I was supposed to fast for all 10 days. You're not supposed to eat anything. So I started that, but every morning someone, and now I know, of course I knew who it was, an apple was kept next to my seat. And that was so wonderful. I think that energy of that apple is still sustaining me. So thank you, Swami Varadananda ji. And may your journey continue. You remember, we never say rest in peace. We say Shubhaste Panthanam. So may your journey continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joshi. I did not know he was the first person to have opened the door for Swami Varadananda ji. So thank you so much for being here. It means a lot to us. Thank you. The next speaker is Mr. Bishwamay Ray. Yes.
Can you hear me? Thank you. I am hard of hearing, can't hear well. Well, everything is going this way. I'm 83, so anyway. Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you, Swamiji. And thank you, Pooja. You are doing a very good MC job. Swami Jogatma Nandaji, whatever you do, don't practice austerity in your speaking. Whatever words I could hear, I like them. So there is no austerity, okay? You said, the catching the horizon. Don't we all want to catch the horizon when the sun rises or when it goes down to sleep? Behind the horizon. And Pooja, you got a couple of words from him. When he talked about life, what is life without dreams? And one can say, life is all but dreams. Anyway, food for thought. That's what I gathered from both of your talk. Again, thank you, Swamiji. And you also the video when it began. And Swamiji, Ishatmanandaji was kind enough to share that first picture, Varadanandaji sitting down. That picture is very revealing. His overall experience, appearance, spoke a volume. Calm and quiet, dignified, and a smiling face. There was some twinkle in his smile, if you have noticed. The smile radiating peace and happiness, and so blissful, befitting a true sannyasi. I came to Chicago from New York in 1973, and I met Swami Varadananda at the Hyde Park Temple long time ago, 50 years ago. Did not realize. Now let us flash forward to 1996 in a leap. As the president of the Chicago Medical Society that year, it was an honor for me to request Swami Varadananda to offer the invocation at our annual educational conference. With grace and a smile, he accepted. He is was a very kind man. That was the first time a Hindu monk was asked to give the invocation in the medical society's history, which was founded in 1850. A long wait, if I'm correct. At the conference, on the opening day, because it's a 3-day conference, Swamiji started the ceremony with a Vedic prayer in a slow, steady, and deep voice. At the conclusion, he uttered the eternal message, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. The audience, about 900,000 physicians, was spellbound. I'm referring to the audience, that's why I'm using the singular, was spellbound. The ambience, ethereal, the conference, a great success. And forever, I remain grateful to Swamiji. There were other occasions when we worked together. For a few years, at the beginning of the century, first few years of 2000s. I'm referring, which has been already referred by someone, to the Council of the Parliament of World's Religions, briefly CPWR. Both of us, Swami Varadanandaji and I, were the trustees of this world-famous organization a long time ago. At the Board of Trustees meetings, his comments were always helpful, to the point, and sought after. I fondly remember the goodwill and trust between us. I'm on the last page. Finally, I will quote a poem by who else but a very famous poet, Ralph Waldo Emerson. Purpose of life. The purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. Swami Varadanandaji has lived well. True to the teachings of Swami Vivekananda, he has loved and served the humanity and led us towards the higher goal, a more graceful, joyful, and peaceful world. Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you, Swamijis. Thank you, Puja. I think I'm within time, but thank you for grace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ray. The next speaker is Margaret Finnegan, but I don't see her here. So can I please request Arun Bhatia to come and share his thoughts? Arun has been associated with the center since he was a young student, young child, and has been associated with the children's camp in Ganges as a student and a counselor too. And he's moved to California and he was here this weekend, so thank you, Arun.
Thank you, Revered Swamiji's friends. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to just take a minute. Some of these remembrances have been wonderful of Swamiji, and I want to thank whoever put the video together, all of the volunteers. That brought back some amazing childhood memories for me, and it actually triggered a funny story. I remember thinking a long time back when I was younger, about 12 or 13, when I'd come to the temple, Swami Varadananda always had these very thick pocket protectors. He would have 4 or 5 pens, lots of notes, and although I moved away, later in life, I didn't see him as often, but I noticed as he got older, the pocket protector wasn't as robust, and sometimes it was missing. So I like to think that, in his early days, as we all are students, we're all learning, taking notes, and he started sort of making that transition from knowing to being, where he didn't need to take as many notes, or he didn't need the pocket protector anymore. On behalf of my family, my parents, Raj and Sham Bhatia, who many of you know, who are in California and obviously couldn't be here, we wanted to just come and offer our thanks and help celebrate the life of Swamiji with some of these memories. He was actually, I will say, the very first true teacher I had in Vedanta. He left an indelible impression on me through some of our Sunday school classes, through the Ganges camp that Pooja mentioned, where he would actually teach children how to do puja in the shrine, and through many of his Friday classes that somebody mentioned as well. Very many fond memories of all of that. The one thing I take away is he taught me a very practical version of Vedanta and aspects of Vedanta, how to meditate, how to maintain an even keel, how to be tranquil, how to have a tranquil spirit even amidst chaos and distraction, and how to see God in everything and everyone. As students, I truly believe that a mark of a good teacher is not just how much knowledge they have, but it's actually how they live those principles and how their life is a reflection and an expression of those principles. And I really believe that Swamiji was the perfect embodiment of that. His demeanor, his calmness, his positivity, his kindness, many of the things everyone has mentioned here today was a constant. And I saw that, I saw him living those virtues very, very consistently, which was a great lesson to me, and I'm really eternally grateful for all of those lessons. I will just leave you with one message from my mother, who wanted to share her thought. I, Raj Bhatia, along with my husband, Sham, salute at the feet of a genuine, spiritual, and simple soul, Swami Varadananda ji. I worked with him almost every day for 12 years. He showed me the path of true devotion and the way to live a peaceful life surrendering to God. Even if I can follow only 1 ounce of it, I will cherish his teachings and try to follow his guidance as long as I live. So with that, I pray that we will follow in Swamiji's example and that our lives be the same expression of love, tranquility, and peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Arun. Raj Bhatia, Mrs. Raj Bhatia is Arun's mother, associated with the center for over 40 years. And Varadananda ji was the manager of Vedanta Society of Chicago. So when Rajji retired and she started working in the ashram and helping Varadananda ji in the bookstore and with his papers, so Swami Varadananda said, I've been a manager all these many years. I finally have somebody to manage now. So he was very excited that he found somebody he's managing now. So thank you for sharing your thoughts. We have Asayo Horibe. She is from the Buddhist Council of the Midwest. We invite her to please share a few thoughts.
Good afternoon. I really wasn't going to speak, but I think I do need to share. It's an honor and a privilege to be here, to be among friends over the years, and to share what a wonderful experience I had in our journey with Swami. We've worked in the interfaith community for several years. We were in Hyde Park together, where the Buddhist Temple of Chicago first started in 1944, but when Swamiji was there, I learned when he joined the Parliament of World Religions, and Dr. Ray was there. I don't know if you remember. We had an event that we had to work together with. But I'll always remember Swamiji as welcoming and smiling whenever we gathered, when we were with NCCJ, Connections, Council of Religious Leaders of Metropolitan Chicago. We were trustees with the Parliament. We went to Barcelona. We went to Melbourne, Australia. I didn't get to go to all of them. But whenever we were there, I could see him from afar because of his garments. And I'd say, "Hey, Swami!" And he'd just wave. And we'd gather and we would be sitting, and he loved his ice cream. But his kindness, in every event that we attended, we worked together in different interfaith gatherings on the west side, out of town. But he was always so kind and gracious and willing to share. Sometimes meetings could get a little contentious, but Swami would sit there very quietly, just watching everybody. You could tell that he led the monastic life very well, because he had that calmness and serenity that kind of emanated from him. We could get very tense. And if you know monastics, how many times do you see them really get? Not often. But they would try to work it out, find a solution, try to get people to see that we have options. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to get even. Everybody has their own point of view. We're very fortunate in our journey. We get to belong to several clubs, but we're all human beings. And just standing together with my colleagues in the council, in our community, in schools, on panels, we're allowed to give our point of view. Because if we all came from the same place and spoke the same language and looked the same, I have to share with you that when they said, "Oh, and Swami over here," and I look and I said, "What is this white guy doing with these things on?" But then you think the wisdom of the past when people make statements. You cannot tell a book by its cover. We're all different. But we all want to get along. We all want to survive. And we all want to be able to carry on in this life without fear. And we cannot do it unless we follow the traditions of the elders and learn about history to see some people really screwed up. And we're very fortunate because we have the spiritual traditions. Hinduism is close to, isn't it the oldest tradition? Judaism? It's been around a long time. Isn't it interesting that a lot of wisdom comes from the East? Imagine that. So in this country where we live, the United States. It's a little over 200 years old or something. It's got a lot to learn. So let's take the wisdom that we have from everybody. And I'm just so, so fortunate because I got to know Swami. And we have examples, and we have to pick our heroes, and Swami's one of mine. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I'd like to invite Ms. Rajeshri Sen to share her reminiscences.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I am so honored that I am able to pay my respect for this wonderful Swamiji. My late husband, Dr. Prabir Sen, was also privileged and blessed to know him. My very young son, we used to live in Hyde Park, walking distance from the Hyde Park ashram. We were in Algonquin Apartments. We had just moved to Chicago. My son was 4 years old. I was in my early 30s. So we would walk to the ashram. And I remember Swami Varadananda from those days. So many people have spoken. This great man was so humble. I aspire to be a karma yogi like him. At least I try. Even if I can reach a fraction of what he achieved, I will consider myself truly blessed. He embodied the very spirit of karma yoga. Swami Vivekananda had said long ago that if you do not worship the 33 koti Devi Devatas, the 33,000 Devis and Devatas, not thousand, I think crores of Devis and Devatas we have, but you worship humanity, that will be enough. And that is what Swami Varadananda did. He worked continuously, tirelessly, selflessly. You would not have found him cutting ribbons or posing for photographs or anywhere. He was always in the background. He was there. He was Swami Shabatananda's right-hand man. He did all the, people kept saying, he did the leg work. And that's what he did behind the scenes all the time. And with, a young man spoke about him being his first teacher. He didn't only teach from scriptures or lectures or exam. He taught by living. His life was a teacher to all of us because he truly lived. People read Gita, he lived Gita because he had no attachment to the fruits of his work. He didn't even claim any credit for his work. What else can I say for this great man? My husband, myself, and even my little son, who is no more, we are all privileged to have known him in this life. I'm too humble to wish that he is at one with his guru and his God. I'm sure he is, and he will continue to be an inspiration for all of us, and that is what I wish. Last but not the least, I would like to thank Swami Ishatmananda for arranging this beautiful ceremony to remember this great yogi. I mean, he's a yogi for all times. He's my hero. I aspire to attain a little of what he has lived. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Sen. Truly, Swami Varadananda ji was a yogi, and he is an inspiration to all of us. We want to offer our sincere pranams at the feet of Swami Varadananda ji and Brahmarupananda ji today as we reflect upon their life and messages. And in conclusion, I'd like to invite Swami Ishatmananda ji to say the concluding words.
I'd just like to thank you all. So you have come from faraway places and you are here only to remember the Swami, who dedicated his life for one ideology from one philosophy, the philosophy of unity in diversity. So the Varadananda ji or Swami Brahmarupananda ji, all of us, we are the bubbles on a huge ocean that is Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna. So we just blast and then we mix with that ocean. So when we were a bubble, an individual, and this name, this form, and then when we go and mix with the great ocean, that is the goal of whole our human life. As from Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna said, and in this modern world, he said, the God realization is the goal of human life. Every human should realize God. And what is that God? God is love and unselfishness. Then when we inculcate the love and unselfishness, then we actually become so dear to each and every one. I was listening to your remembrance and that Arun's mother, our dear Rajji. The Rajji used to come every time and show help. And other ladies, they will be coming. They're elderly ladies and they're very well educated people. But they will be coming and cleaning the floor, cleaning the bathroom, cleaning the kitchen and doing everything. And then they will bring food or cook food over there, serving people. But so happy all the time. And when sometimes I cannot tell them thanks also in that way, but they are all right. Every time anything, just give a call, they are coming and helping us. Why? Because they love an ideology, because they love a philosophy. And what is that philosophy? Unity in diversity. So when we are alone, just one path we are following, it is necessary. I must follow my path. But only thing is necessary, I should not criticize others. And that's why the Parliament of World Religions, the Council and all different religions, they're coming, they're talking about God, talking about love, and talking about the way that Varadananda ji lived. So please continue your support and please come and help us in continuing the ideology that Swami Varadananda ji, he lived. Here, in this Hall of Consciousness, every Saturday, we invite different leaders from different faiths, and they come and give a talk. Please come and attend that. Of course, it will be in the YouTube, you can listen, and I can follow 700 people or 1,000 people, they are listening to that. But your presence is a support, When you come physically, stay over here and listen, that is a great support. If possible, please come. And that will be great support for us. I lost with Varadananda ji, my elder brother and a friend. So every time I used to talk to him, and sometimes, when you are working, sometimes there is some problem. And to whom to say? Only Varadananda ji. So sometimes I will be angry. Though as a monk, I should not. But there is no money, but there is a problem. We have to do this, we have to do that. Then to whom to say? To Varadananda ji. But he will be going all the time. Then when I am over, then it's again. And there will be sometimes when I need him to say something, he knew that I am angry. In that building, somewhere he will go. You will never find him. And when that is over, he will be there. So we always really miss Varadananda ji. We have a chair written, Swami Varadananda used to sit on that. And sometimes, the one devotee who used to love him so much and serve him, our Arup. And Arup, whenever he will go out, at the time of coming back, he will purchase footlong. And that one, they call it I think maybe the staff, the foot long, and used to give the foot long. And Varadananda will start from the beginning and to the end. But the old man, I told, don't give the whole thing. He will go on, and he loved so much to eat. And along with that, coffee, and then afterwards, Arup will say, Maharaj, the ice cream is there. Oh, is it? Again, she will say it. I told, don't do that. Give half, a little, because they are like the child. They can understand what is good for them. But he was very, very, then when in the hospital also, when we were talking with him, then he was not at all worried at all. And one gentleman who was sharing his room, he was, in the, what's called the hospice, the gentleman was listening to the news and all that in the TV. He was not feeling good. Then I requested those people and told, give a separate room. They arranged that. Then when we went and sang Ramakrishna Sharanam, he was so happy. And he was trying to join with us also. And we chanted and then gave the water. And he was so wonderful. Even at that time also, very calm and composed. Sometimes Arup used to say, Maharaj, he was an American army. And he went to Germany as a posting, I think the Vietnam War or something. So he will be asking, how many people you have killed? How many times you have shot? Then he would say, and don't give the answer ever. But he said, there in that camp, I got a book of Swami Vivekananda. And that turned the whole life. He read the book of Swami Vivekananda that turned his whole life. And we just heard that he came and knocked the door in the Hyde Park. And here is a man who opened the first time the door. And Charles Teeter, he entered and he left as Swami Varadananda. And I am remembering Swami Brahmarupanandaji also. A few days before, I think hardly 7 or 10 days, I went to Washington, D.C. I met him. He was so sick, but still the same way, the monastic training, the same way he was talking. And when I told that, Swamiji, how are you? I am fine. How things are over there? All devotees are all right? Everybody is all right? Like that he was telling. Then we came to know that he is in COVID positive, so he was shifted to the hospital. So I am remembering, then they said, that he himself said, don't keep me in the support. I remove all those things. Because mother is coming to take me, I am ready to go. Again and again he said, mother is coming to take me, I am ready to go, I am waiting for the mother to take me. So this is the last part of the life. As in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, whatever you think at the last time of your life, that you become. And now he was constantly thinking about mother. Whenever he will come back to consciousness, he used to say, the mother is coming to take me. And that is the way, today morning, Swami, from the Hollywood, they rang and told today morning at 7:40, I think, that he passed away. So we pray to these great souls to bless us all, so that we too, in our human life, we also can become like that. And when death is inevitable, we are not afraid of death. But the thing is, we should remember God at that very moment. That is the prayer. Thank you, friends. Thank you again. And please let us go down to the hall, and we'll be, you can announce that, we will go down and have some lunch. And Om Shanti, 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 Hari Om, Tat Sat, Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you.